Hello guys, it is Creative Theories here, and guys, the Apprentice 2022 finale has just came out, so there will be spoilers straight ahead if you haven't seen it. In 3, 2, 1. Harpreet ended up winning, and it was amazing. Absolutely loved this season. So I thought today we would rank all of the different candidates that we've got this series, because over the years throughout The Apprentice, there have been some standout candidates, there have been some absolutely awful candidates, and just some very funny, memorable ones. So I thought, let's compare the different candidates that we've had this year, and based off what I think are the best and which ones are the worst. So today, the way how we're going to be doing this is we are going to be ranking them based on their business acumen, which ones actually were decent at business and which ones weren't. But at the end of the day, whether they entertained me, whether I thought they were really funny, and whether I just had a good time watching them is the main reason for where they are being placed on the tier list. So yes, business has a bit to do with it, but just some general entertainment is always good as well. Guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you want to join along with me, there'll be a link down below to the tier list so that you can go and check it out for yourself and choose where you would place the candidates this year on your very own tier list. And before we go any further, please make sure that you've clicked the red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified every time we make any brand new tier list videos. Okay, so here we are on the tier list, and let's just go through the tiers first. So we have You're Hired at the top, of course. In second place, we have the final four. Doesn't mean that there will be four necessarily on this tier. It's just because for this year, for the first time ever, we had a final four, and it was all girls, which I thought was really cool. So the final four, pretty cool. Then in third place, I put Akshay's luck, mainly because Akshay, I really liked him, but he was kind of unlucky, but also really lucky, because he lost every task apart from one, I'm pretty sure, and still managed to make it to week 9. Very impressive, and got invited back for the finale. So I'm going to say Akshay's luck. You're in the middle. You're either really lucky or you're really unlucky. In fourth, we have Turd. That's because on some of the earlier ones, basically, all of the tasks, all they created were just turds. That weird logo on the cruise that was meant to look like a wave, but they coloured it in green and brown. Never going to understand that. Then the toothbrush straight after. There's probably loads more examples as well throughout the year. It was just a bit strange. So if you're in that tier, you're pretty bad. And finally, You're Fired. Can't stand you. Get them out of here. So I put the candidates in order of when they left, and let's just rank them each one by one. So starting off with Harry, and he's going straight into You're Fired. I'm so glad that he left on that first task, because sometimes the people on the first task you leave, you kind of feel a bit sorry for them because, it's their first task. Maybe, they were just a bit nervous. Maybe they just didn't get time to shine. Harry, however, I agree with Lord Sugar completely. He was just so disruptive and really annoying, and he was just really mean and just was not a nice thing to watch, and I'm very glad that he left straight on that first task. It was really weird seeing him return in the finale. You don't usually get the first week candidates returning in the finale, and you might have thought, well, maybe he's changed. Maybe the first week made him look bad. No, he's still the same person, so definitely in You're Fired. Next, we have Connor. Now, I had kind of high hopes for Connor in the first week. Then I saw him in the second week, and the toothbrush, like I say, the turd toothbrush, just making the app really boring. And to be honest, all of that fun thing that I found from him in the first task, it did not translate into the second task. He was really boring. So I'm glad he just got out straight away. So I don't think he's You're Fired. It's going to say turd. I mean, he did literally create one, so yeah. Next we have Navid. I just found him really annoying. Do you know what? I hate to say this, but if anyone remembers Ryan Mark from a few years ago, he seems to me like a wannabe Ryan Mark. Ryan Mark did it brilliantly, and I found him hilarious. Navid, I just didn't. I really didn't. I found him incredibly dull. And when he returned for the finale, I just thought, you can just tell he just seemed like a waste of space, unfortunately. So, Navid, you're going to go in You're Fired. Couldn't stand you. Next we have Shama. Now I didn't really get a chance to really know Shama because she was only in for a few episodes and then left, and she didn't really do much in those episodes. So I'm not really sure where to put her, because to be honest, I kind of wish there's another tier of don't know, because we didn't really get a chance to actually see what she was like. But from the few bits that we saw, she seemed fine, I guess. So for that reason, I think turd's a bit harsh of a word. Maybe I shouldn't have used that word, but I'm going to say Akshay's luck, because if I'd actually seen a bit more of her, then she might have been higher, she might have been lower. But I didn't really get to see much of her, so Akshay's luck. Next we have Alex. He just seemed a bit like, sometimes he seemed really smart, and then other times he just seemed really, really dumb. And I didn't really like that. So he also seemed really indecisive and just wasn't really for me. So for that reason, he's going to go in the third section. Didn't really like him that much. Next we have Francesca. Now this is an interesting one because Francesca, when I originally saw her for those first 6 weeks, I thought she was amazing. Like, I honestly thought she was my favourite. Like, usually within the first few weeks, I've already chosen this is going to be my favourite candidate, and I'm going to ride with them, hopefully, till the end. I remember my favourite ever candidate was Sarah from 2017, I'm pretty sure it was, Series 13, who ended up winning with James, and I really loved her from the first week, because in the first week, she was the project manager, and I just knew this is someone to follow, and she ended up winning. She's still my favourite candidate to this day. Francesca gave me that vibe. Like, I thought she was a really cool businesswoman. I thought she was going to, like, head on far, and I'm pretty sure loads of other people did as well. And then suddenly, in like week 5 or week 6 with the gaming one, she just makes such a stupid error and then gets fired. So, was it a bit harsh to fire her? Probably. However, in saying that, upon reflection, I think Lord Sugar definitely made the right decision, because when I go back and rewatch the episodes, because I love rewatching them, it is one of my favourite TV shows, when I went back and rewatched them, I've realised Francesca isn't necessarily like the nicest person in the task. Like, I'm not saying that you should necessarily be nice, but the vibe that I was getting from her before she got fired is very different to what the vibe I got from her in hindsight. So for that reason, she's definitely not your hired, but I did find her quite entertaining, so I'm going to put her in the final 4. Next we have Amy. Amy was a bit up and down for me. Sometimes I really liked her, but sometimes I just really didn't, and it just depended on week to week. Like, for example, in the fish one, I thought she was hilarious on that. At Bougie Cruises, she was pretty cool as well, and I thought, oh, this person's going to go really far. She reminded me a lot of Jackie from a few years ago, who was also one of my favourite ones. Now, that's not just because they're both American, they just remind me similar traits. I thought she was going to go far, but she didn't. And like I say, it was kind of like a weird wave situation, pun intended, with the cruises. She sometimes was really good for me and sometimes really bad for me. So, for that reason, in the middle, Akshay's luck. Next we have Sophie. I really could not stand Sophie. Like, out of all the girls, I didn't actually mind any of the girls throughout all of this series. Usually there are some that really annoy me. This series, however, it was Sophie that really annoyed me. She really, really annoyed me. Every time someone was trying to get on with something, like Stephanie, for example, she just butt in with the most useless things, and it just wouldn't help the task whatsoever. And she'd also like get really defensive, which I really can't stand. So watching it just made it really awkward, and I just really didn't like her. And on the task when she was project managing it, it just never really went well. I remember the one of the kind of like futuristic cars. That was just a complete disaster. So for that reason, you're fired, Sophie. Sorry to say. Next we have Nick. I'm really undecided on Nick because half of me really cannot stand him. Like, he's almost too cringy. But then the other half of me is like, you know, maybe it's for a laugh. I kind of do like him. So it's a bit on and off. I have to say, one of the funniest bits from this series is when Nick just so blindlessly just walks into the dinner room where all of his guests are having food by the racetrack, and he just comes in like there's no worries, and then he begins talking to them, and you can see Catherine being like, just get out of there. That is hilarious. Like, there are some hilarious bits with Nick, and I also see him on my TikTok For You page way too much than I probably should. But he wasn't the best at business, and he wasn't the perfect candidate ever. So for that reason, I think top of Akshay's luck. Like, I did like him, but, you know, he was a bit up and down for me, similar to Amy. Next we have Akshay. Now, I've named an entire tier after Akshay, and I just think he was really unlucky. Like, luck, by which I mean he got near the end, but really unlucky that he just didn't win a task. And to be honest, I never thought it was solely down to him. I just think his teams were always so bad. And to be honest, I loved Akshay. I thought he was one of my favourite candidates. You're hired. Like, even though he kept on losing, like, he gave decent points, and I honestly just think some of his boardroom scenes were hilarious. Like that one bit where, I think it was on his final week, where he kind of just goes, what do you think of my performance, everyone? And they're all like, do you want to come and run this? Like, he was just so funny. A really great candidate to follow, and I just feel bad for him that unfortunately he lost so many. But he's definitely one of my favourites. He's going to go down in history as one of my favourites. So for that reason, he's in your hired. Next we have Aaron. I really liked Aaron as well. Initially, I didn't find him that brilliant, especially in like the toothbrush task. I thought it's not that great. But as time went on, him and Brittany began building like a really cool duo that I liked. I have to say, the duos in this series were definitely Harpreet and Akeem, which was just hilarious. Brittany and Aaron, and then I'd say Stephanie and Catherine. I really liked all of those duos. And I happen to think Aaron was really cool as well. I wish he'd stayed for the final 5, but the final 4 that we got were really cool. And I really did like him. He just made some really stupid errors sometimes. But when he was good, he was really good. For that reason, I think, does he go in your hired? I think top of final 4. Like, he's really good for that. Oh, next we have Akeem. I don't understand this person. I really don't. Like, he is the most indecisive person ever, and every time he was running a task, and he ran the task so often and kept on winning, probably because he was just with Harpreet, he just did the same thing over and over. He'd always say, oh, I like this. Someone else, probably Harpreet, would go, oh, actually, I think we should do this. He'd go, actually, I've had a rethink about it, and I think we're going to do this, and just steal their idea. And it was the same thing every time. He was just really, like, I just can't even describe it. Like, he was just very funny, but also really stupid. And I have to say, just seeing Harpreet trying to, like, control him was just so funny. So for that reason, Akeem, like, you're not good enough to be in the final 4, I don't think. However, he's going to get the top of Akshay's luck. I did find some scenes of him really funny, but like really cringy, secondhand embarrassment funny, because he was just really stupid at times, I'm not going to lie. And I'm kind of surprised he managed to be the final guy, but good for him. Next we have the final 4. And let's start with Brittany, who came 4th place, top of the semi-finals. I really did like Brittany. I thought she was decent, and I do love how she's one of those candidates, even though Lord Trigger and Karen and Tim were kind of like, just drop it. She stuck with what she created, and she loved everything about what she created. The game that she created, all of her brands, that Be Pure, even though it was basically looked like it was designed for kids. Like, she loved what she created, and I really liked that about her. I don't think she was like anywhere near my favorite, because sometimes I did find her a bit annoying. But she was decent. I really liked her. So I think she's going to go at the end of the final 4. Next we have Stephanie. I really did like Stephanie. She was one of my favourite candidates from the beginning. And I thought her business acumen was brilliant. And she was really entertaining to watch. Unfortunately, near the end, I think she did slip a bit and kind of go downhill slightly. But that's not ruining it for me. So for that reason, she's going to go in You're Hired. I really did like her. But she's not as good as Akshay. Akshay's brilliant. Next we have Catherine. Again, I really did like her. I was surprised that she got into the final, because her, in some of her earlier scenes and earlier episodes, I didn't think she was that brilliant, but I think from the gaming episode where she pretends to be Amelia Stone, from then on, she was just brilliant, and she was really funny, and I really did like her. I don't think she's in You're Hired for me, but I think she's definitely the top of the final 4. And finally, we have Harpreet. Do I like the finalist? Do I like the winner and Lord Trigger's new business partner? And I have to say, I really do. She is definitely my favourite of this year. And I'm not just saying that because she was the winner. She was just brilliant. I just love how set on she was, how strict and forward she was. And I just really loved that. And her kind of like battles that she had to make with Akeem and other members were just so funny. Absolute power. I'm so glad that she was the business partner in the end. But anyway, guys, that is my tier list for the Apprentice 2022 candidates. What did you guys think about it? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and tell me where you would place the candidates in your very own tier list down there as well. And do you agree that Harpreet should have won? I definitely agree. Like, she was brilliant right from the beginning, and she won basically all the tasks apart from 2, so definitely brilliant. And as always, we've been here at Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.